Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for joining me, and a special thank you to every single one of you who has become a subscriber on Substack, here on YouTube, on Patreon, or who otherwise supports my work. I want you to know that I appreciate every single one of you. Poland has closed its border with Belarus indefinitely, and in doing so has severed a vital 25 billion euro a year trade route between China and the European Union. This is not a coincidence, of course. This is a direct indication that geopolitical interests prevail over simple logic, over simple economic realities, if you will, and economic interest too. According to the Polish government, this decision was initially tied to monitoring large-scale Russian-Belarusian military exercises known as Zapad 2025. Russia and Belarus did invite foreign observers, as is usually the case when military exercises are carried out. But even as those war games concluded, Poland decided to keep the border closed, quote, until the situation is completely secure. The situation also follows the drone scare, which is now presumed to have been a false flag, and we'll leave it at that. In the words of Polish official, the logic of security has replaced the logic of trade. That's what the Polish government says. Now, let's break down why this matters and what it signals. This particular route, running from China through Kazakhstan, Russia, Belarus, and into Poland, accounts for 90% of all rail freight between China and the EU. Over the past year, trade on this corridor jumped dramatically. Cargo volumes rose more than 10%, and the value of goods skyrocketed nearly 85%, totaling over 25 billion euros last year in 2024 alone. What used to represent a niche segment of China-EU trade has now grown to nearly 4% of all commerce between the two regions. So this is this is a crucial route. But with Poland's closure, that entire system has effectively slammed into a wall. State-owned freight operator PKP Cargo, which has last week celebrated the launch of its first Warsaw-China freight train, is now warning of very serious long-term consequences. The closure risks diverting trade south through Kazakhstan, the Caspian and Black Seas, and onward to southern Europe or Turkey. And this alternative route is significantly more expensive and much slower. And of course, there's more than just trains. Around 10,000 truck drivers from Belarus who work for Polish shipping companies are now effectively stranded. Those people are stranded, they're stuck in limbo, unable to cross into Poland to return back to work, or unable to go back home. All cargo is halted, including pharmaceuticals, food, and other time-sensitive shipments. This is not just a logistics issue, of course, it is a problem for the entire economy. Efforts to reroute shipments through Lithuania or Latvia are already underway, but they come with their own risks too. These smaller border points are under strain, and as some analysts, I should say, warn, there is really no guarantee that those borders will remain open either. Now, to make matters more complicated, no one knows how long the closure will last. The Polish government has provided no timeline whatsoever, no plan, and no firm answers for businesses that are impacted by the shutdown. So why is Poland escalating? Why is it doing this? Well, the answer lies not just in security concerns, of course, but in geopolitics. This move plays directly into wider strategic tensions involving the United States, Russia, China, and the EU. According to former Polish intelligence chief Piotr Krawczuk, Washington is likely pleased by the closure. The United States has been pressuring the EU to impose tariffs on China, especially over Beijing's continued purchases of Russian oil and gas. Blocking China's overland trade routes into Europe and trade with European partners, at least temporarily, gives the United States a certain degree of leverage without needing to push Brussels directly into tariff action, into sanctions. So this closure may have been very well orchestrated on the highest levels. Kravchuk also suggests that ports in Rotterdam and Hamburg, normally bypassed by this rail corridor, are now quietly welcoming the shift. With rail freight disrupted indefinitely, goods may instead flow through their seaports, boosting their economies. So far, the European Union itself has been very silent, no comment from Brussels, and no major pushback from other member states. And that silence in diplomatic terms is very revealing. China, however, is watching very closely. Foreign Minister Wang Yi flew to Warsaw earlier this week to speak directly with his Polish counterpart, one of the main individuals of the War Party, of the European War Party, Sikorski. In public statements, China expressed hope that Poland would take measures to reopen the route, but of course there were no actions on Polish part. For now, Beijing appears unwilling to escalate, especially since the overall trade volumes, while growing, remain a fraction of China's global commerce. But on the ground in Poland and in Belarus, the effects are being felt daily. As I just mentioned, there are 10,000 people who are effectively stranded, waiting for this to be resolved somehow. Nevertheless, Warsaw insists that the decision is non-negotiable. They're set to keep the border closed indefinitely. Despite Wang Yi's visit and the obvious negative impact of the closure, Polish government spokesperson confirmed that the closure will stay, quote, until further notice. The Ministry of Internal Affairs also said that the losses will be calculated once the situation stabilizes. Only then might financial support be offered to impacted industries, to those companies and individuals who are stranded. Until then, businesses from freight firms to exporters to trucking companies are effectively, flying blind. They're on their own. This is more than a trade disruption. We all understand that. This is a clear demonstration that in today's world, geopolitical ambitions trump commerce, and geopolitical alignment shapes economic reality. That is the conclusion. Poland's firm stance and border closure has not only tested China's diplomatic patience, it's also challenged the EU to define its own position. Will Europe quietly shift toward US-aligned containment of China now, or will it seek to restore its trade channels, even at the risk of complicating transatlantic ties? What will Europe do? For now, it remains to be seen whether more escalations are planned. Give this video a thumbs up, consider sharing it, and subscribe on YouTube. I would love to have you back for my next one. And if you enjoy reading, if you would like a bit more content, you're welcome to check out my Substack and Patreon. They're linked in the description below. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.